This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat. Alright, so we got the 237 spoilers, and this chapter is just as exciting as the last couple that we've been getting. And the last chapter that we got, actually, we saw Gojo die at the hands of Sukuna. Throughout their fight, Sukuna was eventually able to figure out a way to cut through Gojo with the assistance of Maharaga. And after Gojo had died, Kashimo immediately jumped into the fight going against Sukuna. This is like Kashimo's entire motivation in the series. And he had said previously that he was going to do this if Gojo had died or lost. And coming into this chapter, we see that before Kashimo can attack Sukuna, Uraume comes in. And they're on top of like this iceberg falling from the sky. So this makes sense that Uraume would be there because, you know, Uraume was still alive and is like Sukuna's right-hand person. And before Sukuna had fought Gojo like just punched Uraume in the stomach, completely humiliated them. So I'm sure that if Sukuna was like losing to Gojo or something went wrong or something like that, Uraume would have stepped in and, you know, assisted Sukuna as they are here. But Hakari is coming in to battle against Uraume, and he says that he made a promise, so he can't let Uraume live. And Hakari opens his domain expansion, and Uraume activates ice formation against him. So this is awesome. The promise that he made, of course, is to Kashimo. That was kind of like the agreement they made in their ceasefire, their truce that they made after their fight. It was like, hey, you know, I'll show you this guy Sukuna that you can fight. Because Hakari was like, oh, hey, you want to fight Sukuna? I know who that guy is. I'll show you him and you can fight him. And we also found out that Hakari's curse technique automatically opens his domain expansion. So that's why he's just going into it against Uraume. And as the sphere closes around Hakari and Uraume, the iceberg starts to fall. And it suddenly evaporates. And Kashimo notices that it was all to deliver something to Sukuna, and that is the cursed tool which Yorozu constructed in exchange for binding vow of death. Cursed tool Kamutoke. So this is wild for multiple reasons. So first of all, it turns out that, yeah, Yorozu did in fact construct a cursed tool using construction on her deathbed. We were talking about this back when it happened, and I thought that this was very likely a possibility. I mean, I assume a lot of us did, but there was also a lot of us that thought that Yorozu wasn't capable of this. But no, Yorozu can, and she did. And I also thought that she was, because it was paralleling, or at least I thought it was, to Maki and Mai. Because Mai, a fellow user of the construction curse technique, as she was dying, she crafted the soul cutting sword for Maki. And with the development of this, I'm pretty sure that that is supposed to parallel to that. And that also makes me think that Sukuna is paralleling to Maki in some way overall as a character in the series. And I'll go more into that later. But one of the other interesting things is that the cursed tool Kamutoke is what the Vajra looks like. The thing that we've been talking about usually when we talk about Kashimo. The Vajra being the Hindu god weapon given to Indra, which is like the lightning weapon, super powerful thing. And I thought that this was going to be associated with Kashimo in some way, because Kashimo was straight up called the god of thunder at the end of the previous chapter. But no, not at all. It is in fact given to Sukuna. And that's not so surprising, because the Vajra, or the Kamutoke tool itself, we've already seen Sukuna with this. I think it was the cover of chapter 117 or 119 or whatever. My editor, Mr. Him the Goat, will have it on the screen. The cover page where we first saw Sukuna in his prime. I mean, aside from when Gojo first talks about him in the first season, he's holding this Kamutoke or whatever, something that looks like it, which of course is something that looks like the Vajra. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box where you'll get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive, limited edition, and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time, like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese sake Kit Kats, ramen, and many more. It also comes with this awesome booklet that gives you information on all of the snacks in the box, as well as information about Japan and its culture. This month's box is Halloween Snack Haul. Celebrate Halloween with Tokyo Treat's limited Halloween box that is filled with Halloween-inspired snacks like Kit Kat Sweet Potato, Pokemon Halloween Choco Pie, and Koala March Halloween. So first I tried the Palinki Mentaiko corn snacks. Apparently these are corn snacks that have a light Mentaiko or pickled Pollock roe flavor, and these are so uniquely tasty. Next, I tried the Kobe Japanese Cola. This was a really refreshing cola, and it was less carbonated than the kind that we have in the States. Really enjoyed this one. I also tried the Halloween Jelly Bean Gummies. A lot of really great flavors on these. Not overly sweet, and it struck just the right balance, and it had some really nice ginger flavor. And I also tried the special Japanese Kit Kat that we always get with Tokyo Treat, and this month it's sweet potato, and this was so good. Don't let the sweet potato throw you off, because they turn that flavor into some of the best tasting candy I've ever had. So guys, if you're looking for an awesome Halloween gift this October for you or someone else, use codes TREATS23 to receive an additional Trick or Treats mystery snack, and there's up to 8 of them. Thanks guys. So it's understandable that Yorozu would know that he had this, since Yorozu associated with Sukuna back in the day. Like, after they had fought in that flashback, I assume Yorozu healed up and fought him again and had multiple encounters with him. I mean, eventually you had to get to the point of where Yorozu made the deal with Kenjaku to become a cursed tool to be brought back for the Culling game anyway. And another thing that makes me think that is what Sukuna says next in these spoilers here, because he launches an electric attack on Kashimo with the cursed weapon, and he says good old times. So yeah, I do think that Sukuna did have this back in the day, but I guess he lost it or it was broken or something. And also, as we can see the electric attack coming from it, I think, you know, for sure solidifies that this is based off of the Vajra. I mean, the aesthetic is just the dead giveaway there alone, but the electric attack is understandable, but I don't think that this is the only thing that it could do. I think it could probably do more than that, because Kashimo is resistant to this. His cursed energy has made him resistant. When Kashimo fought against Hakari, we found out that his cursed energy had the properties of like an electric current. So understandable that he's unaffected by Sukuna's attacks here, which is awesome, because I didn't want him to be instantly taken out, of course, the way that Ryu was. But then Kashimo asked Sukuna, like, did you become the strongest, or were you born as the strongest? This is awesome. And I also think this is supposed to parallel between Geto and Gojo, you know, asking him like, are you the strongest because you're Gojo, or are you Gojo because you're the strongest? And I think in this case, it's also supposed to go into Sukuna's backstory. And I'll talk more about it in my actual review of the chapter later this week. But I think that the answer is that he was for sure not born the strongest. Going back to what I was talking about with Sukuna, I think him paralleling to Maki, I think that he probably did have a sibling like Mai. And, you know, something happened and it goes into why he has 4 arms and 2 faces. But yeah, he is not like Gojo. Gojo was for sure born the strongest, you know, born with 6 eyes and limitless. I do not think that Sukuna was born with such a privilege. Sukuna replies that he doesn't know because he was an unwanted child. So that's the most that we've gotten into Sukuna's deep backstory, I guess, right? Kashimo asks, how did Sukuna interact with others without knowing weakness? Or how did he show affection/mercy? Because Kashimo says that he couldn't do so. He saw all other humans as pieces of dirt. Kashimo asks Sukuna to teach him if strength is to be alone and find a place to properly show your powers. Is it the punishment of the strong people? Sukuna calls Kashimo as extravagant and says even Gojo was the same. Sukuna taps his head with the weapon and calls upon Kashimo to fight. So this is like the crux of Kashimo. And going back to the parallels on characters between characters in this chapter, I also think this is probably supposed to have Kashimo paralleling to Sukuna. Going back to what Yorozu was talking about him and what we saw also talked about during Sukuna's fight with Gojo, about how, you know, he was supposed to be shown love that he was never shown before because his isolation from being the strongest. Or I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I'm talking about. So Kashimo, I guess, kind of experienced something similar in his time, around 400 years ago. I mean, that's the whole reason why he agreed to join the Culling game and be reborn in the first place. And they like really start fighting now, and Kashimo tries to land a hit on Sukuna using his staff, but Sukuna blocks it with his weapon. And Kashimo moves back and activates his curse technique, Genju Kohasaku, and it translates to something like Phantom Amber Beast. After landing a punch on Sukuna's face, Kashimo loads a breath type attack and it blasts it at Sukuna. The narrator explains that Kashimo's curse technique remakes his body to be able to blast any kind of attack, which Kashimo can make from his cursed energy. Kashimo manages to land another punch. His curse technique enhances his agility, and the waves he blasts evaporates anything that they touch. But Kashimo surpasses the human body to make this happen, thus once his curse technique ends, Kashimo's body will break. So that is insane, guys. Wow, guys, so that is absolutely wild. Finally, we're seeing Kashimo's curse technique, something that he said he can only use once, which is being said here at the end. We're finding out why he can only use it once. This also reminds me of Boros from the end of One Punch Man Season 1, like his final form, Meteoric Burst. It has similar parameters, also similar aesthetic and moveset and the way that he acts and behaves with the similar drawbacks and everything, right? Because that's what Kashimo's curse technique essentially does. I guess it's making him both like a tangible human and cursed energy at the same time, because as it's saying, it remakes his body, but he becomes like the cursed energy flowing through him itself. So that allows him to become more malleable and free flowing, but also faster, better agility, and he can also fire off these waves and blasts from like his palm, his mouth, and they're super powerful, obviously. So like the way that he's moving and he looks, it's like Meteoric Burst Boros or like Super Saiyan. Like this is pretty much just Kashimo going Super Saiyan with the abilities of a Super Saiyan, more or less. I mean, aside from like flying and stuff. Like imagine if Goku himself became a part of the aura or the ki that he emits while he's in Super Saiyan. Like that's what Kashimo is doing here. Pretty wild. Something that I did not expect. I thought that Kashimo was just going to do like a giant like lightning bolt or something from the sky that takes up like a portion of the city. No, we get this, and it's pretty cool. But as we can see here, it is pretty powerful. Powerful enough to force an exhausted Sukuna to do something we haven't seen him before. Because the narrator then begins explaining that Sukuna had a method of reviving his original body only once without using reverse curse technique, but Sukuna had eventually halted it. So I guess this goes back to what Hirozu was talking about when she said to Sukuna that he could probably change his face back. And I thought that meant that he could just like aesthetically change his face back to like what it was originally while still just being in Megumi's body, if that makes sense. But I guess it also meant that he can like just change back to his old body, something I've been waiting to see for the longest time. And I thought maybe he wasn't capable of doing it because he didn't have all 20 fingers, but no, he could do it. Because at the end of the chapter, the narrator says the transformation of reincarnation has been restarted, and we see Prime Sukuna in his true form. 4 arms with all of the tattoos, 2 faces with the messed up right side, and he's holding the Kamutoke just like he was back in the day. And there's a bunch of smoke coming from him as well. Really awesome panel. This is going to be iconic for sure. Finally, Sukuna is back, and I don't know what to make of this. Obviously, there's a reason why he didn't do this against Sukuna. Probably because it was detrimental. And it also is specifically being stated he can only do it once. And also it's saying that it has been restarted. That's a weird way of putting it. Maybe the translations will be different across the board, but now that he's back, what does this mean for Megumi? Is Megumi dead? No. I refuse to believe that Megumi dies in this series. It's like, what happened to his body? Is it still there? Has it just been morphed? Is his soul being altered? I think that's what's going on here, right? Because if Mahito could do that, I'm sure that's what Sukuna is doing here. He's just altering his soul. But it also makes me wonder, like, where is the last finger? Now that Gojo's dead, is it like, was he just holding the finger in a pocket dimension or something? The way that Tengen can hold it? Or maybe that has something to do with Tengen's barrier abilities that Gojo can't do, maybe. But where is the last finger? It doesn't even matter anymore. I think it does, right? Because it's implied that Sukuna's soul is spread throughout all 20 fingers. So he's never fully whole unless he has all of them, right? Doesn't have his entire soul. But yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. I'm going to talk more about this in my follow-up review to the chapter later this week. But if you like this video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.